Well, decided to make a second video called Oil Pan Part 2. A lot of people have trouble getting oil pans off, and the main reason is that you're not supposed to use a pan gasket. You're supposed to use RTV, use an 1/8 inch bead all the way around the pan. See, these are some of the tools you'll need. You'll need your rubber hammer, and this is probably the most important tool, is a oil pan remover, scraper. And I'll show you how this is used in a second. Just an 1/8 inch bead of RTV. I suggest using a new tube, and make sure you cut the nozzle open no larger than you need to get an 1/8 inch bead. You don't want to put too much in. These are some bolts, and what I use them for, and I'll show you maybe a little later, is I screw these into the four corners of the pan on the engine, and then it helps me line up the pan before I set it in, because you only get one crack at this with the RTV, so you don't want the pan prematurely touching the block until you're ready to line it all up. So I found that these help if you just put one in the four corners of the block, two on each side. It makes putting it all together much easier. You're going to need some good scrapers. I bought these the other day. My other ones have probably had their last lap. This one really worked well. I was impressed. And it was long enough, narrow enough, and actually just worked really well. I was impressed. I think I paid $8 for the two of them. They were having a sale. So those are the parts. You can see that I've already knocked out. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've already knocked out the dent in that pan. So we're good there. And the other thing is, we touched on this tool. It is imperative that you use one of these things. Some of these pans, unless you're just one of those lucky guys that never has any problems, they just won't come off, even whacking on them with a rubber mallet. So take one of these, and I'll show you how it's done. Well, the pan actually sits on the engine like this, and underneath the block, what you'll do is you'll pound it in between the block and the pan, and then you can see there's hammer surfaces on all three sides. So once you get it wedged in between the pan, you can hammer it in this direction, or you can hammer it back into this direction, and that'll break the seal. Sometimes you have to do both sides, but I found that if I just cut one side of the pan and then bang on this end a couple times on the pan, it'll pop this loose, and the angle will cause this side to break free rather easily. If you have to do both sides, well, you just have to do both sides. I can't stress enough how important it is, if you don't want any leaks, not to go prying on it with a screwdriver, trying to use whatever you have. Trust me, it's worth the 15, 17, 20 bucks, whatever this costs from Lisley. It's worth its weight in gold to get these pans off. Trying to re-straighten them is just a pain in the butt. I don't know if you can see this, try to get some light on here, but there's the groove in the pan for the RTV. So just make one continuous bead all the way around, and if you have to break a bead, try to do it somewhere in the middle where you can overlap. So here again, it's important to keep the surfaces as flat as possible so that it mates back up to the engine block without any leaks. Up underneath, I have pulled everything out except for the half shaft, and thought I would take y'all up underneath here and show you what's what here. There's the pickup tube, and I didn't find it bent or misaligned or anything, so that was good news. And as you can see, I've cleaned up all the mating surfaces on the block already. There's a little bit of RTV residue in some of the holes. If anybody knows a better way to get it out, I'm all ears. I took out as much as I could, but all the surfaces have all been cleaned and are ready to put back. Anybody that knows me knows that my nature means I gotta clean everything, even though nobody will ever know that it was dirty in the first place. And as I was cleaning, I took a closer look at the flywheel, and once I cleaned it off, I could see that it was aluminum, and then the bolts on the back side made a lot more sense. So this is a replaceable face on a Fidenza aluminum flywheel. So someone has had the transmission off, and it looks like someone did start trying to modify this car before they realized that it was going to cost them an arm and a leg. Explains the heavy clutch and all that. So next thing is I've got to pull that seal, and we're waiting on that part. So I've got to take this half shaft off, which means taking the rotor off, the calipers, unbolting the strut, taking those two bolts out, and pulling it all out. So I'm going to try to get that done this afternoon and get all this cleaned up. So that explains why it wants to die when you're pushing the clutch at a high RPM and the engine slows down so quickly. And someone else has been in here. So anyway, if you enjoy these videos, subscribe. If you like it, do so. And also, I learned something new. You not only have to subscribe, but there's a little gear next to the subscribe button, and so you need to select that, and also select the update option, and so whenever I do a video, you'll be notified. So it doesn't come automatically when you subscribe, come to find out. So we're waiting on this seal on the half shaft, and then we'll get that apart as well. So hope you enjoy the videos. Stay tuned. I hope the tips I've given you on putting on an oil pan help, and stay tuned.